I have the honor and privilege and pleasure to welcome as my guest today, NIARA TERELA ISLEY. NIARA, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you to be here and to share this conversation with me. I'm very honored. You are a former US Air Force employee. You were abducted since you were a very young child by human anonymous, by Grace. And, yeah. And
if there were humans involved, I didn't really know about it at that time. But I think most just the Grays when I was a little girl. And I think the correct thing isn't to say an employee of the Air Force, it's to say an enlisted serviceman or service person of the US Air Force.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
And well, and the US Air Force hasn't been very honest with you because you were deceived into being kind of drugged and taken for terrible experiments.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that was regular Air Force military that were responsible for that. I have to say, though, that someone high up in the chain of command had to know what was happening to me and had to somehow have given his consent or her consent, probably his, for these things to be happening to me, but he may not have been informed of the scope of what was going to happen. So I just don't think that could have happened to me in the military without some kind of cooperation from an officer in charge of maybe the unit or the base or something. So yeah, I hate to say it because I don't like to think regular military would be responsible for such a thing. Yeah. But there are people that are involved in secret and black ops projects that they know things and maybe they approved and maybe they didn't have any choice but to approve. You know, these people, if they can't get you to do something willingly with enticements of whatever kind, then they will use threats and get what they want from people using threats. So it's hard to say which it was or whether it was a combination of those things. So anyway, just to kind of try to clarify that.
Yes.
I'm still proud of my military service, and I'm still a very fierce patriot, in part because of the things that happened to me, because things like that shouldn't happen to anybody in the United States of America, ever.
Yes. No,
military or civilian. Yeah.
No, it wasn't the regular military anyway. Yes, as you explained it well, to clear the confusion people can have. It's not the regular military. It's some people involved in some dark programs that are also working for the military, isn't it?
Yeah. In my book, I called it the shadow government, but nowadays the term is the deep state. You know, we use the term the deep state for all these people that have been doing things behind the scenes. You know, I'll just mention quickly, and we can move on, that I believe that the official deep state started with the National Security Act of 1947, which happened a couple short months after the Roswell crash. They wanted to keep that UFO technology sequestered away from public view, so they put out the weather balloon story. And then that National Security Act of 1947 essentially created all the alphabet agencies, the CIA, the FBI, NSA, all kinds of them. And they began to operate without any congressional or public oversight. And if you tried to pry your way into them, you would be stopped in a court of law or whatever because of reasons of national security. We cannot tell you what's going on, but for reasons of national security. But you have to ask yourself, in hindsight, now all these many years later, whose national security were they protecting? We, the citizens? Absolutely not. They were protecting themselves from being revealed to be the monsters that we know now that they are.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Yeah, it really needs to be specified because there are so many other people who have been involved as victims in this dark project. And we really need to make the difference. This is not the regular military, because the regular military, they're actually defending people, protecting people, and that's not the same persons. So that's very good to.
I think most of them, like myself, they take their oath of service to our country very seriously, you know, and at no time in our history has it been more important to take our oath of service seriously than now. And I'm not talking about only military, but government officials that are elected and take the oath, all the way down to county governments and city governments, all the way up to the White House. It's time to take those oaths seriously. And I think past President Trump definitely took his oath of service very seriously. And he is still out there pointing out what's going wrong with this administration. So I go into a lot of this in my book in fairly good depth. So, I mean, if people read my book, they will get quite an education about, you know, a lot of these things. And the book is called Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light, a journey of spirit retrieval and awakening. And there's so much of my story in there. I wrote it in part to help people like myself who have had experiences, because, you know, if you're not talking to anybody, sometimes these experiences can be very crazy making. I wrote it because I felt like by staying silent, I was allowing the abuse to go on for other people by not speaking out about it. And I wrote it because people, when I first went public, people got so hung up on the horrible things that happened to me. And I was having to rehash them over and over again in interviews. And finally it was like, oh, I don't think I can go on doing this. And I want people to have the rest of the story. So I wrote the book and I put a great deal of information in it. I didn't just give my experiences, which were both disturbing and incredible and amazing, but I had to give the background and the context into which they occurred. You know, there are things like this happen in a political and social context that has to be acknowledged, as well as just me having the experiences. You have to understand the whole tapestry of culture that surrounds a person having experiences like mine. And I'm not the only one, by far. I'm not the only one. There are thousands and thousands of us, perhaps even millions of us around the globe that have had these kinds of experiences to a greater or lesser degree.
Yes,
and,
I read a passage in your book when you go to an abductee meeting for victims of abductions, and you tell your story, and a guy was there, and he says to you, "Oh, did they inject you in the neck as well?" And then suddenly, like, everything dropped for you, like it just hit the wall. Like, gosh, that really happened to me.
It was terrifying. I mean, just terrifying to have him say that. And I just wanted to get out and get away from that meeting. I should have talked to him, but I was so scared. I just wanted to get out, because as soon as I started getting my memories back, I was afraid that people were watching me, you know, to see if I was ever going to remember. They were probably keeping tabs on me. And then when I did remember, I was always watching my back, you know, always, you know. It's like being in an invisible war that nobody sees except you and a few people like you. And you're worried all the time about what's going on. You can tell that your phone is being tapped and listened in on, you know, you can tell all this stuff, and you just try to go on with life. And after a while, you just kind of get used to it. And it's like, well, you know, if they bother me about what I'm saying on telephone calls or whatever, then they reveal the fact that they were listening, and that's against, you know, the law. So, I mean, I just finally got to the point, you know, well, whatever, let them listen, you know, because I'm gonna say what I say and do what I do.
Yes, and you went mediatic, you wrote this book, and you went on different programs. And so once you're, you know, you go public, it's difficult to shut you up, you know, because that's it. If something happens to you now, it's the proof that you were right.
It's the proof. and they risk making you into a martyr. Martyrs can't be killed. They're there forever. And I think I have enough people who really love and care about me out in the world, scattered all over the globe, that they would never allow, if anything happened to me, they would never allow my story or my testimony to be forgotten.
It will give, if we empower it, it will totally empower it. And you're very brave, and people like you, I admire so much, because you show others who have been through the same thing that it is possible to speak out. They can't kill us all. They can't do that.
Yeah.
You know, they
and a lot of people, a lot of people that have had experiences like mine have come forward since they read my book. You know, it really has had a powerful impact on so many people, and many of them I know personally. You know, but I always tell people that going public is an extremely personal decision, and you have to weigh it against your family's well-being, your well-being. Your life could change in some ways, and it will never be able to change back. So anybody who's listening out there who has had extraordinary experiences, disturbing or amazing, as the case may be, think very hard and very carefully about going public, and how it will affect your life, and perhaps the people you love around you, how it might affect their life. You know, I don't regret for one moment what I've done. I don't regret the book. I don't regret any word I've ever said. My story has stayed consistent over the years. You know, I've had people write an article and do videos on YouTube about, you know, some pretty horrible stuff about being raped by reptilians on the moon, you know, every night, you know. Well, and it's like, you know, I never wrote such words. I never said such words. That's never been part of my story. So it's just something that somebody invented for sensationalism, and probably to disturb me and get me upset. I didn't get that upset about it. I just thought, well, they're just lying. So I put a rebuttal to it on my website and left it at that. And I know that that story still circulates. It's like, well, the people that are going to believe it are, you know, their own reward, so to speak. You know,
I mean, that's insane. That's a bit wicked, isn't it? If people need to just invent this, and it's a bit wicked. And well, you know, what happened to you, the reality is horrendous in itself. Why making it worse, you know? So I reading your book there, I think this book is an activator for in many fields, activator to first prove people that they have, if they have been through the similar things, they can stand up and just go forward and tell the world it's possible. You speak also about the soul and the soul journey in all of that, and there are so many like understanding that comes from it. It's really an awakener. It's really an activator, this book. And people like me who have been abductees, I was about to say, just been abducted once by Grace and rescued. So you know, that's nothing. But this night, I was 9 years old. I did hypnosis also, and we went through very quickly because it was painful. So when I read your passage in your book, when you speak about your abductions by small Grace, oh my God, the way, I don't know, it's the way you write, it's brilliantly written. It just takes you by the hand first, but it takes you by the heart as well. The emotions are here. And for everyone who has been through similar experience, you just like, you hold your breath. And I cried. I just melt in tears because it activated other memories from this night of abduction that I had gone very quickly upon it during my hypnosis, not to suffer, but it activated, you know, other horrible little things they've done to me. It's
Yeah.
it's the way you write and you put your heart into it. I really, really recommend it. I mean, for those who haven't yet read it, because that's
Oh.
that's a classic.
Well, some people are going back now and rereading my book because, after you read a book for a while, you set it aside for a couple of years, it doesn't stay with you. But I have a couple of friends that have gone back and they're rereading it and they're finding fresh things that they missed the first time. It's 530 pages. I made it a very comprehensive book. And they're just amazed at the new things that they're learning from it on a second read. So it is, I'm thinking about that moment when I was working with a business coach for several years and trying to get a life coaching business going because I have certifications in life coaching and breath work. And then I tried to get a business going with that, with a really good business coach for probably about 3 years. And it wasn't working. It just wasn't happening. I was doing what she asked me to do, but it wasn't happening. And then, so I changed gears and I said, well, maybe this isn't the right path. Maybe I should just make a go of it with my artwork. So we worked on that for another couple of years and that never went anywhere. And her other clients were blossoming in their careers. And I was like, kind of, not. And so I decided to separate from working with her. And I remember going quiet in my heart. And I said, okay, what is the thing that I am meant to do with my life? What is my sole purpose? And before I even finished framing those words in my mind, the answer came back. You need to tell your story. And I thought to myself, wow, I know what story they mean. That's the one I've been avoiding telling for 14 years now, because it was 14 years from the time I started getting memories back to the time when I started thinking I needed to go public. And then I had this thought a little bit later that by staying silent, I was allowing the abuse to go on for other people. That and the abuse does go on, but at least I've spoken out about it and other people have now spoken out about it. And I believe now that it was a soul contract that I came in with to have these experiences, to even choose the parents that would imprint me with the emotional template, because we attract what we hold in our consciousness. So when you're a small child and you have like a dysfunctional childhood, you get imprinted with all kinds of stuff that then later on, you'll attract other things into your life that are in alignment in not such a good way with the difficult upbringing. And I think it's all planned by soul before we come into this lifetime, because we have a certain mission to fulfill and we have certain karma that we need to pay. And I know that my spirit guides were very present with me through all my trauma experiences, but they didn't stop them. And I really have come to understand and completely 100% accept that they did not stop those experiences because they were part of my soul contract. They were part of my mission because I was supposed to come out and write a book and do the things that I've done. And anybody else out there that really understands their own mission is going to understand what I'm saying. It's really not from a place of ego, because I avoided that for many years. I would hear people say, oh, this is my soul contract to do this. This is my mission to be doing this, and so on and so forth. And I would look at them and think, how do you know that beyond a shadow of a doubt? But then one day, that day came for me when I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that I was meant to write the book and I was meant to blow the whistle on this kind of abuse. And I was also meant to heal the past family stuff and the past stuff that happened to me. And, because the things that happened to me were so extreme, I may spend the rest of my life in a healing mode, because new things come up. I have an agreement with my subconscious that please only bring up memories that I need to deal with because they will help me heal. But that being said, some very difficult memories have come forward since 2017. that I have had to look at and examine in order to heal. And I'm not going to go into those experiences. They're pretty bad. But anyway, it's, I just feel that like this is what I was meant to do. This is absolutely what I was meant to do. And if I was meant to do this, then I am now meant to live my life as an example of how to live with these kinds of memories and these kinds and still thrive and still shine, still let that divine spark within me that's within everyone, every human being, every animal, every beautiful soul incarnated on this planet has that divine spark in, and it's meant to shine, and it's meant to find and fulfill its true potential. So anyway, I think that that's really what I want. And when I wrote the book, especially part 3, I spoke to that in people's hearts and souls. I said, there is something that humanity is meant to become that is so incredibly special. And there are so many forces in the world right now working overtime, trying to prevent us from ever achieving it. But as we've seen the last decade or so, the more the stuff comes out, the more truth that comes out, the more people are awakening. And this awakening is now becoming a tidal wave that is unstoppable. In the midst of all this stuff, I wrote in my book, I said, the world right now, and right now it's even more than ever, the world is a crucible in which higher consciousness of humanity is born, not just on an individual to individual to individual, but in unity in mass. You know, that's really what's to be happening and what is happening right now. And if my book has been some small catalyst in that, then I am honored and humbled that I was able to be a part of people's awakening.
Beautiful. It's like being, you're an alchemist. You came here to experience the darkness, to be able to transmute it into light and show people how this is possible. And you wrote, there's a sentence I took note in your book. You say, the challenge has been to face the shadow in there and choose to embrace the light. And when I read that, it may be such a simple sentence, but there is so much in it, so much, because it's not about only you going through this horror, the depth of darkness, and coming out of it and accepting it and healing it and choosing the light, embracing the light, but it's about humanity, the whole species. What you experienced, it's what the whole species on Earth is experiencing now, being abused and being really in this situation. You experienced for humanity, and telling your story, it teaches so many people what we are all undergoing, without knowing.
We are. That's been one of my greatest griefs in the past 2 years, is that so much of humanity is going through similar things, in a sense, as to, I mean, not the really horrific things that I went through, but we're all facing such incredibly challenging times. And I'm sure that everyone listening in the audience knows what I'm talking about with the things we're going through right now in our country and in our world. I'm not going to mention them by name, but it's hard for me to see all this, because it was this kind of future that I was hoping my book would help prevent. But I think it's still, again, it's still part of that crucible that I mentioned a few minutes ago that is putting pressure on us to evolve. And I think of the little girl in that miniseries Taken. You know, she was a product of gray hybrid breeding, and she had special abilities. And they had to put her in very difficult situations for her to manifest and reach deep inside of her to bring forth those abilities. And she certainly did it. She did it in a way that saved her and her parents. And it was, you know, very like psychokinetic experiences, making people see things that weren't there and everything else like that. She was put in that horrible, intense, dangerous situation that was scaring her, and she had to reach deep inside herself and bring forth these abilities to save herself and her parents from what was happening. And it's very similar for us now as a human species. If we want that divine spark to come forth and really shine, then we have to understand that first, that it's in there, and we have to go within that and call upon it to get us through these times that we're living in. And when we come through these times we're living in, we are going to be forever changed. We're going to be something very, very special.
Yes. And we
Yeah.
are something very special. We are powerful, interdimensional, powerful beings.
Mhm.
And there's a passage in your book when you said, well, you tell your what happened. I think it was through the hypnosis session with Gloria. I think you recall a moment where you were abused by men in this military place. And someone asked you if you have had a gun at that point, would you have just shot at them? And you answer, oh, I was dying to do that, to just explode their heads and see them dying. I was so angry at what they were doing to me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't
I think
have done it.
Had a gun, everybody in that room would have gone down.
Yes. The way you say it, it's like, go
Yeah.
girl.
Because I'm a fighter. Nobody takes advantage of me and does that kind of stuff to me. When if I can defend myself, I do. I do defend myself. But in that situation, I could not.
Yeah.
But if I'd been able to, yeah. Yeah.
And you tell
and I got to say here that I'm just as glad that I didn't have the chance to have a gun and shoot all those people. I'm just as glad that I didn't. It would have been very bad karma. Even so, I think even if you are defending someone, which is a God-given right to defend yourself, it's really best to do it from a dispassionate place inside, so that you don't pick up a lot of karma from doing it. You're doing what's necessary to protect yourself and your loved ones. You're not doing it out of anger, rage, or vengeance.
Yes.
It's a very different thing, okay, to do it from a dispassionate, this is what I must do to protect myself and my family, and not go over into anger, rage, and whatever, which it's really walking a tightrope, and some people can do it and some people can't. And I have no judgment against the people that do get into a rage about it, because it's a hell of a situation to be put in.
Yes, and you've written something that's very, very clear, talking about this rage, because you're very graphic in what you say. I would have exploded their skull and see their brain, blah, blah, blah. You're very graphic because you were under anger and emotion. And then you say this anger and just cracking up and blowing up in emotion act. You say, I wouldn't have done it because I am not like them. And to me, that was important. It resonates because I went, yes, this woman knew, even in the worst of the darkest situation, who she was, that she was not like them. And that's an example, for everyone in this global situation. We are not like our abusers. As you say, we do things, we kill people to defend ourselves in a reason, because we have to do with reason, and that's what we have to do. But doing it, putting anger and lower feelings, it's not who we are.
Yeah. Well, I think at the core of what's going on in our world today, it really is about it's definitely a war between good and evil. Because as I said earlier, each one of us, every bit of life on this planet, whether it's trees and plants or animals and birds and insects or human beings, we all carry the divine spark of our, living, loving, conscious creator, which is my term for God. It's a little wordy, but I like it better. God, the word God has a lot of baggage these days. So I think about it as the living, loving, conscious universe or multiverse itself. And we are part of that. That spark within us is a little piece of that. And it's here to experience life in all of its facets, good and bad and dark and light. And then there's these people out there that hate God. And they feel like they know that we have this divine spark. Maybe they don't have it, Maybe they're kind of a soulless entity and they don't have it and they're jealous. So they do everything they can to try to put the spark out in people by their abuse, by human sacrifice, by doing all kinds of terrible things, because they want to destroy that light within humanity and within all life. And they do it as an attack on God, as an attack on the Creator itself. And but the problem is they can never extinguish it, because we are eternal beings. This thing here, it passes away. The spark remains, and the spark goes into the other dimensions that it's earned by the life it's lived and the things it's learned in this lifetime. Yes. So they can try all they want, but they will never extinguish that light in any of us.
And all those who have been through abuse have the revelation of that. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't been through abuse, it's very difficult to encompass this awareness of being so powerful, eternal, like timeless, without boundaries. All those who have chosen to go through abuse, maybe by a soul contract, who they did it to experience it, to bring this awareness to the world. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. And then with my Lyran people, I would go in my astral body to the ship, and I would go into this glass tube, and they'd turn on their holographic computer system, just pass a hand over a console basically. And I'd be my astral body would be in this glass tube, and sound and light waves would pass back and forth and go through my astral body and upload all my experiences from this lifetime, good and bad, into the holographic systems of their computer. Then any one of my people could go, any one of my Lyran people could go to one of those consoles and connect to it and experience whatever level of reality that I experienced that they wanted to do. Some would experience all of it, the emotions, the physicality of what happened. Some would just see it as a movie, whatever they wanted to do. But I think it gave them a lot of data on what we go through on this planet. And they learned a great deal, I think, about the process of indoctrination, which is the process by which we are conditioned to accept certain things when we shouldn't accept them. And the indoctrination on this planet has been going on ever since the inception of humanity, hundreds of thousands of years ago, millions of years ago. And they've done it to us physically by going in and shutting down our extra DNA and shutting down the abilities latent within that DNA. That has been what I call physical indoctrination. And then they have done mental and emotional indoctrination down through the ages with events like the Salem witch trials and the Spanish Inquisition and the horrible things that were done during that. That was another form of indoctrination, to make people so afraid of that light inside and the special abilities in that light inside that they would shun those abilities and not touch them with a 10-foot pole, because it meant they might be burned at the stake.
Yeah. Anything that can take us away from our power. I think the Christian religion, the institution, the church, has done so many damages by convincing people that they are born with guilt to be themselves, and they need to obey and conform, and that's horrible. That was
born into sin, born with original sin, just by being born, you know. So it's something we have to, and I'm a deeply spiritual person, but I was raised Lutheran, and it was a good experience. It taught me a lot. There was so much hypocrisy in my church, and I just, after my first communion, I just thought I can't stay here. And so I went my own way. And for quite a few years, as a young teen and a young adult, I called myself a universalist because I needed a term that would encompass everything. But then I found, you know, meditation and other spiritual practices, and it really helped me. And always, always, always being in nature has been my greatest healer. You know, going out there and seeing the beauty and the order and the balance, and just realizing that I'm part of that. I'm not separate from it. I'm part of it all. And, you know, that is the thing that keeps me going, you know. And, you know, I just love being in nature, you know.
Yeah, reconnecting with the universe. When you reconnect with nature, you connect with God, and your personal connection with God. And that's something that's very essential to do, as much as you can. I mean, go into nature.
The Native Americans, they were, you know, good with that. And I've really followed a lot of Native American spirituality, and I have some Cherokee blood. So I even made a giveaway song that when I'm out in nature and I'm having a really nice time, I'll find a nice place and I'll sing the song to the spirits of place. Not to any person. I just sing to the trees and the animals that are nearby, and it's my way of saying thank you for such a beautiful experience out here with all of you.
And everything is connected, and the whole nature, the whole world, all spirits of nature everywhere, they'll hear it, because it's all interconnected.
Yeah. I guess my current cutting edge challenge, because the times we're passing through right now are very, very challenging for me as well as anybody else. The cutting edge of my challenge as a spiritual being right now is to walk through the world and ask myself, okay, if I was a God-realized individual, how would I be responding to the things going on around me right now? You know, what is the best way that I can respond? And mostly it's really just giving a heartfelt smile or a heartfelt word to somebody that I see who might be having a rough day. You know, just any little kindness that I can do is really, really the most important thing. And realizing, especially, you know, when I'm scared, and I do get scared at times, but I have the fear and the fear doesn't have me. That's a very important distinction.
That's great. I have the fear, but the fear doesn't have me. Oh, that's good.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think it's really realistic to say, don't be afraid, no fear, you know, these kinds of things and everything. And they sound good. But the truth of the matter is what they do is they take people who might be afraid in their heart, and then they bottle that up inside because they don't want to say in front of somebody that says, you shouldn't have any fear. Don't be afraid, you know, no fear, you know, and you just kind of bottle it up inside, and that's no good. It's better to admit to yourself, hey, the stuff going on in this world scares the hell out of me, you know, but I have the fear, and the fear doesn't have me. If the fear had me, I would be acting out of panic. I would be acting out of, you know, anger, maybe. I would be acting out of all kinds of things that would just bring me more bad karma. Okay. But if I have the fear and I understand it's in there, then I can respond to it with love from that divine spark within me. So that's really the important part of the lessons in front of us right now, because if the world was blown to kingdom come by a huge energy weapon tomorrow, guess what? All of us would be absolutely okay, because this dies, we don't.
Yes, that is very
Yeah.
important. We are
Mhm.
not these flesh suits.
Yeah.
We are these
Mhm.
souls. And when we go through experience in this incarnation, the soul goes through it, but the soul records the learnings and the experience, but
Mhm.
never dies from it. Just
No,
learns, takes the
no.
data, and just moves
Mhm.
on. And
Mhm.
that's something important. So whatever abuse you are victim of, uh, you are more powerful than that. What
Mhm.
who's inside is absolutely immortal.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
Well, if we lived in the light of heaven, let's say, all the time, but we had never experienced what it was to be down on the earth plane, then how would we know what we had in heaven? How would we value it? How would we know how wonderful it is if we hadn't experienced its opposite? In this world, we are here to experience contrast, good and evil, dark and light, rain and sunshine. We're meant to experience all these contrasts. And what these things do, I mean, when evil presents itself to us, it helps us define who we are in relation to it. And where do we stand in relation to this stuff we're seeing around us? Do we want to join with it and do the same kind of evil? Most of the people probably don't, or maybe they do it out of fear. But it's still, whatever choice any individual makes, they're defining who they are in relation to what they see around us all. So if we're seeing wonderful things happen out of the evil as people support each other and stand up for each other, then we've defined where we stand. We stand with these people who are saying no to bad things in this world. We're standing in that place, and everything that happens continues to help define us to ourselves, and the kind of people that we want to be, and the kind of people we want to spend time with, and the kinds of feelings and joy and happiness or comfort that we want to give to people around us who may need it, because we might need that comfort ourselves sometime. And will there be somebody there for us? Yeah, if we're a fountain of giving to others, then when we have the need, there will be someone there. And it might not be a human person. It could be an animal. Sometimes you spend time out in the woods, and maybe you're feeling bad. Maybe you went to the woods because you're feeling bad about something and everything. And suddenly a deer walks up into the clearing where you're sitting, and you have eye contact with this being. And it's a very special moment. And suddenly you forget about all the problems that brought you out in the wood to meditate. I mean, sometimes it can happen that way.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
and we forget that we have the ability to do this, to go on adventure in nature and just
Mhm.
be there in the moment. And magic sometimes happens to remind you that you are connected with something way bigger than what you think.
Mhm.
There are so many people at the moment on this planet who are scared, who have embraced fear and who have let fear into them, and hence they are feeling lost. What would you say to those who are feeling like this, like they're scared, they're totally terrified and
Mhm.
petrified by what's happening, and they only see the solution to obey and consent? What would you tell these people?
Mhm. Well, I'm going to speak from personal experience, because there have been days in the last month or two where I have felt terrified. But when I open myself to the divine spark, when I open myself to spirit, spirit gently says this: you're living in a potential reality because of the fearful things happening around you. And if that reality is not with you now, can you just look around at maybe what actually is going around you in that moment? Because the present moment is the only true moment that's real. And our life is an endless progression through present moment to present moment to present moment. In this, so I've developed a thing that I say to myself, in this moment, all is well. In this moment, all is well. And if I spend all my time planning for how I'm going to react or respond to something bad that I feel is coming at me, then I'm speaking to myself too here, because these are very challenging times we're living in.
Yeah.
You live in that reality because you're planning for it. And if our thoughts create our reality, then what on earth are we doing? What am I doing? What are people out there in the world doing if we're so afraid of what's coming at us that we think, well, if this comes, I'm going to do this. And if this comes, then I'm going to do that. You're like planning it out, you know? And you want to withdraw that, and you want to look at what's happening and say, okay, how am I defining myself in relation to what's happening around me? You know, how am I defining myself in the face of great evil? You know, I don't want to partake of it. I don't want it to touch me. How can I guard this divine spark within me so that this never touches that part of me? And sometimes it's just enough to take a breath and say, in this moment, nothing bad is happening. In this moment, all is well. And then just make that moment expand. And if you are part of, you know, the practical ways to do that is to, if you're in the United States, you can join constitutional study groups where we get together and we talk about, you know, the constitutional rights and the Bill of Rights that we have in the United States that are really founded on basic human rights that come from God. You know, we have these rights and no one can really take them away. They can try, but they can't really take them away. And we have to just stand up and say no. We have to draw a line in the sand with our toe and say, not one step further. I am saying no. And I'm joining together with other people who are all also saying no, because there is strength in unity. And for every one person that stands up and says no, like what we're seeing with people who confront the school boards for the protection of their children, for every one that stands up, 10 more stand up, and then 20 more, and then 40 more, and it just becomes exponential. You know, that's how we are going to take our world back, by doing that. And also by going into the quiet place inside your own heart and realizing that in this moment, nothing bad is happening to me, nothing bad is happening around me. In this moment, all is well. And then just keep expanding that sense of wellness out. And then, like I said, when you're out in the busy world and in the, you know, beta brainwave consciousness, you know, join with like-minded others and stand together, because that is our strength as humanity, to stand up for each other and with each other.
Yes.
So there's the practical and the spiritual married. You got to marry the two together.
Yes, and if we all do that, I mean, that's it. We're good. We're good. Learning to be together. You know, the divide and conquer method of the dark ones. Now we know what they're doing. They try to mount them against each other, to just being easily controllable. But if we suddenly, as you say, bind everyone together and act together and comfort each other, it's an army. That's an army.
And they do these, you know, there's so many terrible things that they're doing, and it's really a shame that some people are losing their lives, you know. And I got to tell you, I feel it at a very deep level. I feel the grief, and there have been days when I have felt incapacitated with grief for what's happening to certain people out there. We can't let those deaths be in vain. We have to learn from that, and we have to stand up even stronger and even stronger and even stronger. Because if we cave in to the great evil that is trying to take over our world right now, then those deaths are in vain. We cannot allow that. That's why we have to stand up twice as strong, 3 times as strong together with each other. Otherwise, those people that have died in this last year, it's all in vain. You know, those deaths were meant to instruct us and to make us aware and to, you know, change how we're going to respond and how we're going to react to what's going on around us these days. And we can't let those deaths be in vain. We have to stand up and be strong and take those deaths and make them our precious learning. And if we give into evil, then those deaths are in vain.
Yes, it's like a wound. It's like wounds to a body. That's what's happening for humanity. These deaths to the body of the species. It's painful wounds, and if we decide these wounds haven't been for nothing, that we are going to fight it back and push this enemy away and just overcome it, and then we can heal. It's the same with the grief. I feel it like this. It's like I mean that it's quite very hard.
Yeah.
Those who have been through abuse like you really understand that, because you have this rage growing in you. I know now who's my enemy and I know what I need to do. And if you're not hurt, if you're not molested, if you're not shown the dark, you never know there's even an enemy. You just sleep.
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way. If I have to become as terrible as the enemy to defeat my enemy, then I have become him or her.
Yeah.
I have become that.
Yeah.
And my enemy will die with his dying breath when he will be laughing because he made me into exactly what he was for me to defeat him.
Yes.
We cannot go down that path. We cannot go down that path. We cannot become the enemy to defeat the enemy. We have to defeat the enemy by being loving beings, because if they are truly not of a loving vibration, they will flee in the face of love.
Yes, that is very important. Very important. Be who you are, the powerful, loving light being. And this light is stronger than any of these enemies. This is the real victory. The victory is to overcome these lower behaviors, not take them, but overcome them by your light and your love power. That's when you really win. That's
yeah. And it doesn't mean to be, I'm not finding the word here, but you can still be acting from love and stand in a strong place and say, no, this is the line you are not going to cross. And I will stand against you. I won't become you, but I will stand against you to the best of my ability with everything that I have. And I will do it because of love, because of my love for myself and because of my love for the people around me that you might harm.
Yes, boundaries. And the people are sometimes surprised because they see me as somebody spiritual. And sometimes I'm going to just have a go and say F off to something or someone. And how can you say the F word? Or how can you say, be like this? I say, well, I'm a warrior. I'm a light warrior. When I need to say a truth, I say it. And I'm a fighter. I didn't come here to sit under a tree and just do nothing. And, I'm just, I came here to kick ass in darkness in my way with love and with like saying the truth and clarity, light. That's the part of it.
Being a spiritual being doesn't mean being a wuss or a weakling or anything else like that, or letting people walk all over you like you're a doormat. That's not what it means. what I really like to think of it is being a spiritual warrior, you know, and remembering not to go into excesses of negative emotions. I mean, yeah, I get mad and there's a flashpoint, and I have Norwegian ancestry, so I have this little Viking berserker that lives in here, you know, that
Me
can
too.
come out at yeah.
Me too.
And sometimes I'll come out and I'll say some really strong things. I said that in a group of people the other day, and they were like, wow, you know, we're not used to NIARA speaking in such a fashion. I said, well, get used to it, you know, because if I have feelings about something, I'm going to speak my mind about it. But a lot of people came up and thanked me after I said what I had to say. And they said, you were absolutely right. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because people need to face this, and they need to realize that we're going to lose our country if we're not careful. You know, if we don't face into what's happening and say, this is as far as you go and no further.
Yeah.
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 So
that's people need to understand. Fighting doesn't mean always being like bloody and angry, and no, fighting sometimes it's just being grounded, saying the truth as it is, doing actions with reason, go to as you, for instance, you spoke about groups that will teach you how to what are your rights and how to make them respected for yourself and for the ones you're in charge of, your family, for instance. And that's the way you fight. That's the way you fight, not with the weapons of your enemies, but with a weapon even more powerful, which is truth. Truth.
The Jedi warriors in Star Wars are a really good example of a spiritual warrior.
Yeah.
You know, they were not supposed to fight and rage. You know, they were really skilled and they were really good at what they were doing, but they were constantly reading their enemy and reading his emotions or her emotions and responding and blocking at each point. You know, and sometimes they were defeated, as we saw in Star Wars, but that's really a wonderful model, you know, if I can use a model for the movie industry, but it was a good model. You know, I liked when Obi-Wan Kenobi says, you can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't say it in anger. I think he almost said it in love. And then his body was too old to keep doing the fight. So he put his lightsaber away, and of course, then he got killed. But he transmuted his body into light.
Yes.
You know, he wasn't even there anymore. And Darth Vader was kind of confused, stepping on the floor. And so, you know, when we go there, we're like Obi-Wan. We can become 1,000 times more powerful than we are here in this body.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Look out, you know.
Yes, and if he had killed Darth Vader out of anger and despair, he would have, you know, this would have come into him, and it would have weakened him.
Exactly.
And it's always this, it's a mythical fight of the good warrior, the solar warrior, who is going to defeat the dark ones. He must not. Sometimes the dark ones say, kill me now. See, you are angry against me. I killed your family. Let this rage take you. It's like in Star Wars, the Dark Emperor, they say that to Luke Skywalker.
Right.
Feel it. And Luke Skywalker says, no, I won't. I'm not like you. I don't take this. Right. And that requires, excuse me, but that requires balls. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
You know,
women have balls too. We just wear them higher.
Oh my God, I'm gonna keep that. That's so great. I never heard that before. That's fantastic. I'm gonna use it. Thank you.
Sure, go ahead. So,
you know, I've studied druidry, how to become a druid, and we are first. We undergo an inner alchemical transformation. We heal our wounds. We discover who we are. we make peace with ourselves, and then when we are at peace, we know the taste and the vibration of love energy. And then with this love energy comes certain wisdom. And then we are given the magic tools, because it is said that you are not given a sword as long as your heart is filled with anger and ego and things like that. You are given the sword only once you are ready to fight in the name of love, and with love, with reason and wisdom and love. Otherwise, you have no weapon. And that's how things should be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Well, every each of your words, it really resonates within me, and I know in many people who are going to listen to this. Well, I think all is said about how powerful we are and how we must fight. And this is the testimony of someone who has been through the deepest of the darkness to bring back the light. And it's really, really who you are. And yeah.
That's both of us, Alina. That's both of us, not just me. You have been through it too. And so many other people that will listen to this, they've also been through it. And we're all kin. These experiences bring a fellowship between you, between me, between the people that will listen, between the people that will go public and the people that won't go public. You know, the people that who are going to really understand, and the people who are open to understanding by listening to this conversation. You know, we're all in this together. And I am no more than anyone else. You are no more than anyone else. We're all in this together.
Yes. Yes. You are not alone, and nobody is alone. And we need to talk, to go toward each other. That's what you decide to do. You went in your younger years, you decide to go and to groups, join groups and talk to people and tell your story. And that's how it really activated your stamina to go further and try to know the truth, because you went towards others and you tried to find a kindred spirit people. So that's something I would also advise. If you know, we are not alone.
Yeah, we're meant to transmute the darkness on this planet. You know, we're meant to take the darkness and turn it to the light. And my way of turning it to the light was to write a book and to try to tell people what I went through and what it opened me to that was amazing and marvelous. And I accept my soul contract completely, and I wouldn't change a thing. And, you know, it's been a magnificent journey, and it is still a magnificent journey because I'm still on it. I'm still.
And how would you see the magnificent journey of the future, NIARA?
The magnificent journey of the future. I still have a great hope and a great feeling inside myself that things are going to turn out okay. I think that better than okay, actually. I still think things are going to turn around. But even if they don't, you know, because we always have to be prepared, you know, even if they don't, I will find a way to go on. And if somebody, you know, who's an evil person decides that I'm not meant to continue in this body and I'm killed or something happens to me, like I said, I'll just be in another realm, you know, and I'll be in the place that I've earned by living this lifetime to the best of my ability, in the best way that I knew how to live it, you know. But it's not the end of me. Of course, I'd like to stay here and be with, you know, my life as it is, and the people I love, and so on and so forth. But, you know, if I have to go, you know, it will be good. You know, it will still be okay. Sometimes we just have to make peace with whatever could come. And these times really kind of demand that. But I think if we stand together and we keep standing together in our little groups, and I still think that our former leader in this country, I think there's a very good and powerful chance that he's going to be back. And if it happens, this is the way I feel it's going to happen. I feel it's going to happen very suddenly, and he will just simply be back at the helm of our country. So, and I think it's just going to happen very suddenly, and we're going to know that he was there all along, pulling the strings behind the scenes. I think he was there all along. So, but yeah, I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And if I am wrong, then I will find a way, like 7 of 9 says, to adapt. You know.
You know, when I met, I meet sometimes some positive extraterrestrials, and one of them who is had this connection with Valthor, and he said to me, when I was telling you about what was happening in the world and people were desperate and please give us a sign, give them a sign, people need signs to believe. And he said to me, took my hands and he said, we will never let you down. He said, we never had and we never will. We will never let you down. I've spoken about this experience many times to people, and then people told me, hey, the former US president said that we will never let you down. He was saying that a lot.
Yep.
And that rang a bell. I went, that was a sign, that was a message that he has never let us down. And that the friends upstairs, and you know, some people like your former president, they are still here working in the background because they know, you know, something I've been told as well is, do you think we would sacrifice and fight and put our lives at risk if we thought there was no hope?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I believe as well that the future will be good.
Yeah. Well, I know that I have powerful spiritual guides around me at all times, and that they're watching over me, they're guiding me. And I believe everyone has that if they can just tune into that, you know. So it's just a matter of being able to tune in. You can do it the best if you can get out into nature and just tune in to the energy fields of all the life around you. You will discover that you have that spiritual guidance and that spiritual protection as well. And it doesn't mean that bad things won't happen to you, but it will mean that you're able to meet those things from that inner strength that comes from knowing you're protected.
Yes, and that you experience very painful things in your life doesn't mean you have no guides. They are here, but you just chose to experience these things, to learn something and to hook at the energy to be able to transmute it and do something with it. So they will let you experience the suffering because you agreed that with them, and it doesn't mean you're alone.
Yeah, well, trauma was a means of shamanic awakening in many tribes.
Yes.
You know, whether it's accidental trauma that awakened someone who became a shaman for their tribe, or whether it was intentionally inflicted trauma, like tying someone to an anthill and letting the ants just bite them and bite them and bite them. Trauma changes consciousness. And when we experience a trauma, we have a choice. We can twist ourselves into the evil that touched our lives, or we can transmute the evil and we can become something far better than we would have ever been if we had not experienced the trauma.
Wow. Wow. I think these are absolutely powerful words. And I invite everyone who's listening to this to listen to these words again and again and really let them sink in, because it's really important. NIARA, thank you.
Yeah, again, we live in a world of contrasts, and the contrasts are here to teach us who we are in relation to ourselves and the people around us. And you have to want to make that relationship between yourself and the things that are happening around you the very best that you can, the very best. So, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm going to really thank you. Thank you for having the courage to embrace your mission. And as your book is entitled, Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light. So for all those who haven't read it, again, here it is. Where can we buy your book? Can you recommend ways to buy it, please?
It's available on Amazon.com. I do see a few copies on eBay that are really much higher priced. But you can get it on Amazon for $22. And if $22 is just more than you can possibly afford to spend, I have my website, which is also called Facing the Shadow, Embracing the Light. And I believe the first post there is I did it quite a while ago, but in that post, I offer a free PDF copy to people for those who can't afford to buy the book. That being said, I highly recommend to buy the book, because it's a lot nicer to be able to hold a book and read it that way than be exposed to EMFs, reading it on the computer or devices. You know, it's good to be able to just get away and kind of hold it in your hands and read it.
Yes, I found that with your book. There are some books you just need to have a physical copy. That happens for books who are an activator. And you just need, sometimes I read a little bit and I go, and I really hug it. I do like this. Wow, it's physical, and it's like, wow, it's, you need to have it like this. I mean, it's.
But I just wanted another place for people to get it if they really, really are financially challenged and they can't get it that way. I wanted them to be able to have a free copy on the PDF, and that way they can still look for it. Maybe they could get a PDF even if they have a solid, a physical copy, because that way they can kind of use the search feature and search for a place in the book where they want to remember something they read. So it's really useful. And a lot of people have said, you're really undercutting your book sales by doing that. Well, I didn't write my book to make $1 million. I wrote my book to send a message, and the message is for everyone. So it's for people that buy the book and read it, and it's for people that maybe can't afford to buy it. So it's out there both ways.
This is wonderful. And is there other ways people can contact you? Do you advise people, or do you give services, or?
Yeah, I don't do so much of that anymore, because I went through a period of time after the book was published where I was shadow targeted, and it was a very hard several years. And PTSD was I have PTSD, and it was running really high, and I was not sleeping. 9 years of very severe sleep deprivation. And I'm coming out of that now, but I'm still in a recovery phase. And I can't respond to emails too much. I try when I can, but I can't respond too much because I got carpal tunnel in both hands, and too much computer work is it hurts the hands. So, and plus I've got so much going on offline right now that, I mean, if people want to write to me, I will see it most likely. I will respond if I possibly can, but for most of the time, I just don't have the time to spend online to answer hundreds of emails that come my way. So it just got unmanageable after a while.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can understand that. So
Yeah. But that being said, I love people very much. And my book is my offering of love to all of you. And in my own way, I'm working to make this a better world for everyone.
you surely do.
So,
You surely
yeah.
do. So I recommend it again. And for those who didn't know, the few who didn't know about it,
Yeah.
what would be, if you had a last word or recommendation or blessing to say, what would you say?
As you go through your daily life and you're out there around people or animals, you know, cats and dogs who are our pets and everything else like that, be kind, you know, look for the opportunities to be kind to cats and animals and other animal companions of human beings and to other human beings. You know, as much as you can, if you can light someone up with a smile and uplift them in some way with a small word or a gesture, or even no words and just a smile, do that. You know, just those little tiny random acts of kindness, because not only will you be giving it to the other person, you'll be enriched by giving it. You know, it goes both ways. You know, when you give love and appreciation out to the world, it comes back to you, and it uplifts you too. So we're bound in a circle. What goes out comes back, and what goes out comes back.
NIARA, thank you. Thank you. You are a true Jedi. True Jedi.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.